Hi there, this is Roland again, and today I'm talking about nitric oxide again. Well, nitrogen was actually discovered before oxygen in around, it was 1772. It's essential for DNA, proteins, amino acids, and chlorophyll. So what I want to mention here is the connection between atmospheric nitrogen and how it becomes part of the living organisms on the planet in two different ways. One, via the bacteria in our soil that forms nitrates out of nitrogen in the air. Two, via lightning, large amounts of nitrogen are oxidized and united with water to produce an acid rainfall which deposits nitrates in the soil. Our atmosphere is 78% nitrogen. So I've talked a lot about the reduction. That's when we go from nitrates to nitrites and reduce that further to nitric oxide. Great. And that's one of the most natural ways to make nitric oxide. Why is nitric oxide so important? Well, it's inside our bodies. All our veins, I've said, produce it. We make it in our digestive tract, makes it. Our nasal passages. I mean, I talked about humming, but if you've studied breathing, and I will be doing clips on breathing, well, deep breathing will really generate nitric oxide. And also I talked about these pathways. There are different pathways to arrive at nitric oxide. We can't actually take nitric oxide and expect it to last very long as a supplement because it just it breaks down. It's volatile. But we can make it through these different pathways. So I've talked about NOS, nitric oxide synthase, and there are different types of NOS. eNOS I talked about, endothelial NOS, nitric oxide synthase. I don't take L-arginine at the moment as a supplement because there are about 6 cofactors that are required to get to nitric oxide. Now, if you're deficient in any of those cofactors, maybe you're not producing nitric oxide. I mean, there are plenty of studies to say that L-arginine does lead to nitric oxide, but it works if you're already producing nitric oxide very efficiently. So it's not guaranteed. And I've had a stroke, so that's... Anyway, it's a complex pathway. I'm putting that one on hold. And then citrulline malate I talked about, and that's another pathway. And I tell you, so there's going to be a little table called the nitric oxide index, if you like, a bit like the GI index that we all use for blood sugar levels in our blood. It's important if you've had diabetes. Well, you'll see this one, my wife has been making some fantastic watermelon juice, and she made some yesterday, like half a watermelon, and we split it up, and we had a friend around yesterday, and it's fantastic. Anyway, that has citrulline in it, so they won't find that on the list, but that's a citrulline pathway that then generates nitric oxide. So you'll find there are certain foods like watermelon juice, we juice it, that produce an awful lot of nitric oxide, but they're not on the list. The melon's on the list in the B category, because there are 3 categories. So anyway, I like those pathways because usually we're talking about beets and kale. Kale is right at the top of the whole list. And these are just ways of getting nitric oxide into our body. Another two things I've been thinking about. Wine is a good way of getting, through wine we produce nitric oxide. And chocolate. Good quality chocolate. Cacao beans. Cacao, yeah. Well, if you go back to the 70s, everybody was worried about nitrosamines. Nitrosamines being used to preserve meat, so bacon and so forth. And nitrosamines got a bad reputation for being carcinogenic. Without there being that much direct proof about this, but that's what they're connected to, associated with. Anyway, that's the thinking of the 70s. They didn't even know nitric oxide was made in the body. They didn't know that. And nitrosamines might still be a slight concern. We don't know everything yet. But now at least we do know nitric oxide is made all over the body, everywhere. Every single place in the body uses a signaling molecule. I've said it so many times. It's a signaling molecule. I haven't talked about erectile dysfunction, but you know, that's what Viagra is, nitric oxide, to signal to that part of the body to increase circulation. And I'm pretty sure I'm really focusing on boosting my nitric oxide levels. So I'm drinking wine medicinally. I'm not drinking it for recreation. It's medicinal. So it's very small amounts of red wine. Good organic red wine, of course, it would be. And a huge amount of salads and red beets and juices, and this is expensive food, but it's the elixir of life, as someone commented. It definitely is the elixir of life. Anyway, I think that just about wraps it up. I think nitric oxide is so, as I said, I don't think I would have had my stroke with enough levels. Our levels decrease as we age. But if you start exercising, I'm 60 years old, and exercising has not been easy because I cannot do everything. And as somebody pointed out, my lymphatic system, it cannot circulate if you don't move about. It needs the propulsion, the stimulation from the muscles. You need to do a few jumping jacks and so forth. I can't do those yet. I'd fall over. I'm talking about exercise to produce more nitric oxide. And the more nitric oxide you produce, the more exercise you can do. And the more exercise you do, the more nitric oxide you produce. Scientists call it bidirectional. It's what we need to be well, fit and healthy. And yes, there's a nitric oxide crisis because it costs a lot of money to eat well. And people who've had a stroke are low on nitric oxide. If you don't get outside and do some earthing and connecting with the sun and a bit of exposure, how are you going to get nitric oxide? Deep breathing produces nitric oxide. But what we're going to find out is not nitric oxide is everywhere in life. Breast milk, full of it. The early breast colostrum that's made in the first 5 days, because that nitrite has to support the immune function of the baby. It has to cover the baby. I mean, if nitrates and nitrates are in human breast milk, there, it's full of it. So if that doesn't support us, what is supporting us? And it's very important. So I recommend looking into nitric oxide and eating a bit of chocolate at least. See you all next time. Cheers.